good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world and whatever time zone you are joining us from, welcome. Welcome to the Black Consciousness Festival, weekend of conversations about reparations, claiming what is rightfully ours, 185,435 days, late and 3 years short. The Black Consciousness Festival is a global online platform for the commemoration, celebration, and sharing of vital histories and stories that boost the awareness and impact of the pride, power, and practice of people of African descent. Our inaugural year was the magical and historical 2020, where we created a month of conversations and activities around topics of Black consciousness. Earlier in 2021, we had our Youth Festival and now our weekend of conversations on reparations. The Black Consciousness Festival is continuing to building the awareness around how each of us can take the necessary steps for restitution, healing, and reparation repair. We can find more on the festival at our website, theblackconsciousnessfestival.com. My name is Anderson Gonçalves, and as part of the team of the Black Consciousness Festival, I am humbled to introduce today's conversation. Today, we present a conversation entitled Full Admission with Dignity, a youth conversation focused on the question, what will it take to heal and repair 185,435 days of injustice? A conversation involving young people across the diaspora as they explore the notion of people of African descent being fully admitted with dignity into the global citizenry, and what we can do as a people to ensure healing and repair. This conversation will be led by Jamie Philbert, choreographer, martial artist, performing artist, movement artist, cultural researcher and practitioner, educator, designer, curator, and filmmaker. Jamie Philbert is a native of Trinidad and Tobago. Brought up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. She's a dance graduate of Fiorello LaGuardia High School for Music, Art and Performing Arts. Upon graduating, she founded Echo's Dance Company and began presenting her choreography while freelancing for dance companies and choreographers like James Brenner, Nathan Trice Rituals, Roger Jeffrey, Alfred Gallman, Nia Love Blacksmith's daughter, Charles Moore Dance Theater, and Chan and Dancers. She dedicates all her movements and magic to the legacy of her transitioned parents, Dennis and Veronica Philbert. We thank you for joining or tuning on our Zoom webinar or live Facebook stream. Feel free to post anything you hear that touches you and make sure to tag us on Facebook and Instagram. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Anderson. That was wonderful and very informative. Welcome, Facebook Livers. Welcome to the world, both near and far. And welcome to this wonderful, amazing, brilliant panel of young minds. And I say young not in a diminished way at all. Youth is very, very important, and it's something that we all need to keep as we grow older. I'd like to start off first by making sure that the audience knows who these amazing people are, the future holders of our successes. We'll start with Harmony. Harmony, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do.
Good evening, everyone. As she said, my name is Harmony Divine. I am a student currently studying at Georgia State University in Georgia. I'm studying engineering. I am a Haitian Belizean American, And I'm also a professional dancer. I've traveled the world with my mom as a performing artist and just learning new languages. I currently know a total of 7 languages at this moment, trying to get to 10. That's my goal. And I'm really excited to be here and be a part of this webinar. So thank you.
Thank you, Harmony. Welcome, and I'm glad to have you here. 7 languages. I'm looking forward to learning at least 1 before this conversation is over. Nicholas, please tell us about yourself, where you're from, what do you do?
Yeah, hi everyone, my name is Nicholas Ward. I am from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm a graduate of the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, for a Bachelor's of Science, major in Psychology and a minor in Brazilian Studies. I am also the youth representative on the board of directors here at the Black Consciousness Festival. And I am a self-trained visual artist that is passionate about the use of art for activism. And I am very excited to be here having this conversation with you all as well.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. We're happy to have you here with us as well. Sule, how are you and who are you? What do you do?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sule Collymore. I am from Guyana, the land of many waters. I am a youth activist for reparation. I am a local government representative. I am an international relations student. Well, actually, I'm no longer a student, but I am here to have a great discussion.
Beautiful. The beautiful part is, Sule, no matter even if you're out of school, we're all students of life, always. A wonderful man named Torrance Muhammad said that. So I keep that in the forefront of my mind. So we never get too big for our britches, right? And it can always be that we're always learning. So you're always a student, Sule. Even when you get to be like, you know, president of Guyana or prime minister, still there. Mariana, how are you and what do you do? Who are you? Tell us who you are.
Thank you, Jamie, for having me. I'm fine today, like also for the Black Consciousness Festival. First of all, I'd like to ask my guys so I can use the best words here. So my name is Mariana Gomes. I'm a Brazilian journalist and cyber activist, also the co-founder of Conexão on the platform, which is an initiative of discussion on ICT for emancipation through the Afro-Brazilian knowledges. And I think that's it for now.
That's a lot, and there's more. So I'm so happy that we get to find out more about. And let's get started. So I let you introduce yourself first because I wanted you to announce your presence in this space, but we also want to acknowledge our ancestors in this conversation because wherever we go, there they are. Yeah, so I'll start off by just doing a libation. A libation is an honoring, a citation, if you will, of who came before us. So you can say anyone's name that you so choose in the conversation. Anyone that is directly related to you or someone else that has influenced you that you keep inside of your ancestral space. So I'm going to start off by giving thanks and praise to the Most High and to my mother and father, Dennis and Veronica Philbert, who I could not be here and be as whole as I am without. I also want to give thanks and praise to all of my healed and honorable ancestors, the spirit of Kalinda and the ancestors of Kalinda, namely King Supin, King Kali, King Stokely, King David Matthew Brown, and recently transitioned King Zabuka. Harmony, I'll ask you to go next.
I would like to acknowledge the presence of Elizabeth Babbitt, my great aunt, and my great grandmother Miwe, who their spirit still lives within me till this day. So.
Nicholas.
I would like to acknowledge my grandfather, Christopher Carty, my 2 great-grandmothers, Marian Carty and Christiana Thorne, and my grandmother, Inez Ward.
Thank you, Sule. Sule?
I would like to acknowledge the presence of my mother, Deborah Lynch, my father, Norman Collymore, of the persons that have taught me Black consciousness, the persons that have imparted that knowledge to me. When it comes to role models, I want to acknowledge the presence of revolutionaries such as Coffee, who led the slave revolutions. Damon, I would like to acknowledge Toussaint Louverture, because I had to do a paper on him, who was a phenomenal Haitian and a leader in his prime. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Mariana.
So I would like to acknowledge the presence of Madalena, which is my great-great-grandmother, for everything that she represents to this day.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask that all of our ancestors are lifted up in this moment, and even the ancestors, the honorable and healed ancestors of the people who are viewing this live right now. And may this conversation be fruitful. May it be an upliftment to all of our spirits, and may it be another drop inside of the pond of liberation. So now that we have gotten that and the space is clear, because if we had forgotten to acknowledge those people that allow us to be here, I don't know what would happen to this conversation. So I'm grateful for that. So I want to start off by asking you all, and each of you can kind of go through answering this to me. What does reparations mean to you? Yeah, Mariana, why don't you go first? I see your face on the screen more than everybody else's right now.
Okay, so for me, reparation is getting the chance to connect with the knowledges of my ancestors and using it in the best way that I can, so I can uplift my family as well as the communities that I'm part of.
So your reparations is coming from an internal space as opposed to an outward space. Is that correct?
Yes, also, but recognizing the challenges that I need to go through so I can be ready for what my community needs.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mariana. Harmony.
For me, reparations means evolving from, like Mariana said, from like what our ancestors taught us, and using that to build the future so that we can live a better life, not just because our parents want us to, but because we can and we have the power to.
Beautiful. So I'm not going to keep calling names like we're in school, right? Thank you, Sule.
So, for me, reparations, and just looking at the word in of itself, reparations speaks to repairing, and repairing speaks to, the damage that has been done. So it is something that to repair the damage that has been done to our ancestors, the damage that you can see effects that have transpired through time that has been affecting persons of African descent. And it's also for me about self-repair. It's not an aspect of having someone assist us in repairing it. It's an aspect of us repairing ourselves for the betterment of ourselves and our families, and it goes out from there.
Thank you, Sule. Nicholas.
To me, reparations is something specific. For me, it is compensation for the crimes that have been and continue to be committed against people of African and indigenous descent in the Americas as a result of the Atlantic slave trade, from genocide to enslavement to human trafficking to Jim Crow laws to institutional racism, and the list goes on. I think we need to get compensation for these crimes that have had and will have long-term effects on our communities.
Thank you all for that. So we're all clear about where you stand with what reparation means. Nicholas, you mentioned a slew of systems, and slavery and colonialism would have birthed a bunch of different systems from the initial call for reparations. So there are all these arrears now that have come about inside of the reparations from slavery itself. Yeah, they've come under other names. Particularly, I believe that it's still the code of slavery, yeah, and the technology that slavery became. So tell me, what systems do we have in place to combat those systems? Or what systems do you have in your own individual lives that you are using to combat these other systems, like peonage and the convict system that came about, where convicted prisoners would basically be lent out to corporations for $1, $2 to work, or nothing at all, yeah, or sharecropping. So what other systems do you feel that you created in counter to these dominances? anyone can speak. Y'all gonna make me do the school teacher thing, huh? Okay. I see Mariana, well, her video went off one time. Sule.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. Now, when it comes, I like the word system because I think we've grown up. Well, I've grown up, and I'm sure most of us have grown up in what we call a Western system or Western Hemisphere system. That's to say, the system was designed by the British. Some of our parliaments still use Westminster systems and these types of things. But when I hear the term system, I immediately take it towards the body. So when the body's in danger, it's getting too cold, the system, the body's functional system, kind of protects the heart and the mind. That is a priority. Everything else can start going, but the heart and the mind is protected. So I think ideally what we need to do, or what should be done, or what has been going on, is we are creating spaces for ourselves, we're creating systems for ourselves where we can now bloom into ourselves, where we can acknowledge who we are, acknowledge our past, acknowledge our future that is coming. And we're also helping each other to combat the challenges that we are currently facing.
So tell me what the exact system is that you're using. So your
Oh,
system,
wonderful.
yeah, tell me exactly what that system is.
So I am part of a youth group called IKEMBA, which is Youth for Reparation within the Caribbean region. Now, what we normally do is we have done programs for Carry Festa, we've done youth programs, we have a yearly program that we do where we have children from different schools and we teach them about the Black experience. We teach them about Black arts, we teach them about Black tradition, we teach them about Black culture. It's all about reframing or refocusing those stigmas that you hear about Black people. It's so far from the truth, and we can be so much more. So what we do is try to combat ignorance with education. And in combating ignorance with education, you have people who are now learned who can then go and pass on that knowledge. So that is one of the systems that we kind of do here in Guyana.
Good, beautiful. I'm asking you these questions about systems because in this conversation, I want us to get to solutions. We already know what the problems are, yeah? And we know what exists outside of us in a particular way, and we don't always know what's happening internally because we're so bombarded by what is happening externally. So I want us to just make little notes for yourself. So just now Sule spoke about the technology basically of community, which is very African, right? And how we deal inside of that. So that's one, we got one so far, that we know that it's potentially working and has worked even when we were on plantation. Nicholas, for me, Kamal Brathwaite speaks about the internal plantation, and Sule just spoke very much to that self-repair that we need to do. What are some of the rituals that you do for yourself that maintains self, and not just speaking of the individual self, but self, your community self, your ancestral self, your shadow self? What are some of those systems or rituals for you?
Okay, so I think, well, as an artist, you know, I use art specifically for reclaiming and redefining my identity as a person of African descent. So you know, I think everything from like community murals to museum exhibitions and all of that could play a role in this fight. Because you know, art could be used as a tool to deliver counter narratives to the narratives that exist about us, and that for all intents and purposes are inaccurate, you know, and we need to stop passing these narratives down to successive generations. And because art is much more readily accessible and digestible than academia, which most people would lean towards for educating themselves and stuff like that, I think it could be used as a powerful tool here to help us unlearn you know, those stereotypes and all of that, and learn about, you know, who we truly are and form a positive self-identity from that. Yeah.
I love that you said unlearn, because that's a huge thing in our educating or re-educating ourselves, unlearning languages, unlearning thought patterns. I want to read this quote from Edouard Glissant. Thought draws the imaginary of the past, a knowledge becoming. One cannot stop it to assess it, nor isolate it to transmit it. It is sharing one can never retain, never not retain, nor ever in standing still boast about. So Harmony, I'll read it again, but I want to get your take on that quote. Thought draws the imaginary of the past, a knowledge becoming. One cannot stop it to assess it, nor isolate it to transmit it. It is sharing one can never not retain, nor ever in standing still boast about.
Okay, the second you started reading that quote, first of all, I loved it. The second you started reading
Edward, it's not Jamie, that was Edward Glissant, yeah?
Got
so
it.
You guys should totally put Poetics of Relations is something you guys should totally get into and read. I'm saying that to our audience and also to the panel. I keep reading it. It's something, every time I read it, it's something I come back to and I'm like, okay, yeah, well, I didn't even think about that inside of it. So it keeps bringing new thoughts and ideas into space.
I'm gonna answer this question and the last question you just asked.
Sure. Yeah.
So like I was saying, when the second you started reading that quote, I started thinking, I remember someone used to tell me, every thought you have, someone else has already thought it. And it's not meaning that they thought it in this lifetime or this year, or it's possible, but someone in a past time, like in the past, someone thought of this exact same thought you're having right now. And I thought, and while you're reading, I'm just thinking, like, all our thoughts are shared or borrowed, if you want to call it that. It's kind of like we all have the answers. We all have the answers, and as we're going through our life, all these thoughts that we've already had have already been thought of. Now it's up to us to use it. And to answer your other question, I was thinking of the system. I was thinking of the system in Haiti that we had spoke about the dance that's going on in Jacmel, how we're teaching people about our culture, about dance, and how it helped us with the Haitian Revolution, and how it's really important for it to stay in our culture even today. The new generations, we have to learn and we have to remember it and keep it to ourselves. My own type of system, I would say, I'm not sure if anybody else does this, but my own system, ever since I was little, I've always thought of stories that I would tell my kids in the future. I always thought of rules I would make and ways that I would raise my children so that they would be better than me, even though I hadn't started living my life yet. But I knew that they would be better than me in many ways. Like, I would never tell, I made this rule that I wouldn't lie to a child. I'm not going to tell you that something doesn't exist when it does exist. Like, I'm not going to tell you shouldn't be scared, because you will be scared sometimes. But I will tell you how to overcome your fear and how to change and manipulate it in a way that you can use it to your advantage. In many ways, I feel like it, like Sule said, it's an inner system that you have to fix first before you can fix the system that's going on with the world. So that's my personal input on that.
So our second thing that we have the technology of community. We have the technology, we'll call it the technology of the imaginary. Can we agree on that? Yeah, that thought that brings about more thought and that brings about tongue. Yeah? So since we're talking about tongues, I want to ask you what the impact of our language has on our goals for further liberation, because I believe that liberation already exists inside of us. It is not something that we fight for. We fight for the right to keep it and have been fighting for that right. And the thoughts that we've inherited, shared, borrowed from our ancestors kind of is the engine behind some of that. So talk to me, Mariana.
Okay, so let's talk about language. Excuse me?
Yeah. How
Okay.
does language, yes, I said yes. How does language impact that, this journey that we're on right now?
I think it goes most in the first step through our names, like the way that we are called in our communities. And I think it's when I think about my journey, I did a profound rethought about why my name is in Portuguese. And when I get with this question with my mother, I could understand the meaning that she gave to me, and the process of choosing it. And as we would talk, I would learn about the history of my family as well as the history of Black people in our diaspora. So I think it goes in one way through our names. Also, I think that we deal with a lot of limitation when we try to translate or try to register some of our experiences in the diaspora. Like, for example, in Brazil, we have the Quilombo communities, which are one of the ways that African, as well as African descent people at the time of colonization would be, they would create those parallel societies where they could connect with different cultural perspectives based on their backgrounds. And most of the time when we read about Quilombos in our history, it's about, you know, Black people who are running, bad people, and we wouldn't understand it. So I think it also goes to this place. And also I like to address that we always, with words, for example, we have this long-going process of recreating sense, meanings, and that we can take it as our ancestors did, and as we are doing right now, to reshape the words, the meanings, and to rebuild what I think it's ideal for this time and the days to come.
Thank you so much, Mariana. You mentioned Quilombos, and for me, Quilombos, a word that everybody would understand is maroon space. Yeah, and we understand that those people are not bad people, and I think the language we use around is important as well too, because maroon, even the word maroon, is a tricky word at times. For me, what I like to call it are liberated spaces of response. Yeah, if we understand responsibility is the ability to respond, and those spaces are spaces of responsibility, or liberatory responsibility. So thank you for bringing that up. So now we're on the technology of language. I'm very interested to hear from Harmony about this because of her time in Haiti, and really all of you. I would like each of you to answer this question because language is so important to the development of nations. Yeah, and if it doesn't have a certain kind of economic support or a certain kind of political support, it can diminish, as we've seen inside of our cultures. So how do we keep or continue to build our technology of language through the imaginary, through the community? Yeah. I love when Oleda smiles, because I feel like that means there's something tingling inside your body and your brain. That's great.
Okay, so languages. Yes, I know a lot about languages. I'll say one thing out of learning all the languages that I know, that I currently can speak fluently. Language is definitely what keeps people connected. I'm going to use the example of Chinese. I do speak Chinese. I went to Taiwan to learn Chinese for 3 years, and the language, many people think it's hard, but when you learn Chinese, it's the culture. The whole culture is in the language. You have to experience it. It's amazing. The way they write, the way they talk, even the way they write stories or the way they read and stuff. Every word has its own story. Every word has every stroke means something important, which is what helps you decipher what exactly the word itself means. And there are even words in Chinese that English doesn't have. Like there's just no word for it in English that you can't describe. I want to say for Black people, for African Americans, I feel like we've lost our language. And in many ways, not only have we lost it, but we don't know what it is. We're still, which is one thing that's definitely disconnecting us from ourselves and the world because of this missing link. We're not exactly sure where we come from. And because of that, we find it hard to trace back to, we want to say African. We are African. Yes, all of us are Africans, but where? Where does our family lead? What languages did we used to speak? What was our culture? Many times because of that, we find it hard to even figure out who we are. And because of that, we find it hard to connect each other even now. Like coming together to fight for our civil rights or just to fight for our freedom that you say we already have, but do we have it though? Freedom is freedom of mind, freedom of body, freedom of space, freedom of everything, and just free will. Really, for me, that's what it is. And languages is definitely a way that helps you experience that freedom, because once you learn another language, your mind expands to a whole nother country. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds hoarse. I was at a protest the other day, so I was screaming a lot. But
your voice doesn't sound hoarse at all. You sound lovely and clear. Yeah.
Thank you.
I wanna interrupt you, and I want to, because you said that we've lost our languages. So I slightly disagree. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's okay that I slightly disagree. I'm gonna ask you a question inside of that, and again, please hold on to these questions, guys, because I want you to be able to respond. We have Black people, Black nations, African diaspora, however you want to language it. We have extra linguistics. So on the plantation, there was stifle speech, there was disguised speech, there was all these different ways that we manipulated language in order to thrive. And I think that even in protests, right, you will see in protests, we use our bodies, right? We use our art. Those are all languages. The stories that you talked about, those are all languages. So did we lose them, Harmony, or did they evolve, and did we just end up multiplying because of, not because of slavery or because of it, but because of our dexterity of beingness?
Okay, I can say, yeah, I can agree that we evolved. We morphed it into something better, bigger, or maybe just something different. We made a different language for ourselves. I could say that.
And I'm not trying to change your answer. I'm trying to grasp out what else did you see in terms of, besides just oral, right?
Yeah.
We have written languages. Again, music is a language for us. Yeah, I've seen us come together, no matter where diaspora people are on the planet. If we bounce up, if I met you all in person, Mariana and I would have something in common. We'd be able to communicate, even if she was just speaking in Portuguese, right? Right, Mariana, you smiling, it's true, right? We have that ability to do that. Yeah, we have that ability to do that. So I don't want us to be lost on the things that we actually have.
Yeah.
And sometimes we focus so much on what they've taken from us. But if we continue to make them think that they've taken stuff from us, it's going to be problematic, right?
Yep.
And it brings me back to this thing that you guys keep coming back to, of the self-reparations. What resides inside and what do we see? Yeah, you wanted to say something else, Harmony, before I move to...
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, thank you for like commenting on that and making me see a different way on that, on different perspectives. So thanks. Yeah.
You have 7 languages, and the Edward Glissant also talks about the violence of comprehension. So sometimes, because we've been at these spaces of hegemony and what it does to our psyche, like Sule was talking about, what it does to our system, our physical body system. We get locked into thinking that we have to learn so much. We have to do so much. Yeah? And we do, yes? But we already have so much.
Yes, I agree.
If you're learning a new language, you're adding to that space as much as that space is adding to you. And I want you to know that. Yeah? Not preaching, because I don't want to be talking too much. I want y'all to talk. Sule, talk to me.
I'm glad we broached the topic of language, because as you said rightfully, language is something, it's not just spoken word, it's art, it's dance. So I can speak to someone, an English speaker, and we can relate, we can have a conversation. If I'm speaking to a Brazilian who speaks Portuguese, I can try to speak English, but there might be a bit of a disconnect. But if I say, hola, como vai você? Tudo bem? Mariana would understand me completely. So the importance of it is that language is our ability to reach other persons. And we use that language. If we can learn to speak the same language, we can find an understanding, we can find a unifying aspect, and we can then go towards our mission. And another aspect.
Challenging you, Sule. I'm challenging you. So this idea of a unified language has been in many discussions, yeah? And people are always on different sides of the fence with it. If we have a unified language, does that take away from our differences?
I don't think, well, first of all, I don't think differences is something bad, because you can't know good if you don't know bad. You can't know hot if you don't know cold. So I think differences are something that allows us to be more expressive. It's something that allows us to be more genuine of who we are, because knowledge of self creates love for self, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I think even though we have a unifying language, and it's been done in South Africa, there's Afrikaans, there's Zulu, there's so many different languages spoken but they can still come together, and there's a unifying effect still. So I don't think it's something that is disparaging.
Yeah, there's a base language that happens. The reason I'm asking about difference is because that's what has happened with all of us learning the English language, right? And a certain way to speak and write the English language. It takes away from the innate difference that exists in us as people of the African diaspora. So I want us to be mindful of when we're saying a unified language, or just think more about, I don't have the answer, yeah? But I do believe that there has to be a way for all of us to communicate, but I believe that way already exists by spirit. Yeah, there's a word called entu. Yeah, by spirit, right? And this is what we're talking about. And sometimes we're having these conversations and we forget that piece of it, that technology of spirit that exists for us. So I'm not disagreeing with you, Sule. I just want to just giving you more stuff to think.
No, but
yeah?
Just to add to it, I think even though there's a unifying language, there's still an aspect. We can't keep having ourselves in this box. We can do as Harmony, we can do as Mariana. There's so many things you can learn from languages. And as she rightfully said, once you learn a new language, it opens up a different level of thinking. Your mind is expanded. You can learn a different culture based on learning a different language, where they put their verbs, where they put their nouns, what they focus on in their sentences. So language is definitely a unifying factor. And it's something we can learn.
Thank you. Nicholas, from the land of the hummingbird, land of Trinidad and Tobago, my home.
Okay, so with respect to languages, I have a few points that I want to touch on. But the first one is I think we need to realize the effect that language has on our subconscious, especially the European languages that we speak today. You know, to my knowledge, because I could speak Spanish and Portuguese as well, those languages, those two languages, assign genders to inanimate objects. And okay, so we have like mesa, which is table, and that's a female noun to describe something that is meant to serve, right? And then the same with chair, to support. And these things spread, you know, misogynistic ideologies throughout our societies subconsciously, right? Secondly, I want to speak on the fact that we need to, you know, basically respect the languages that developed during enslavement and colonization more, because, you know, we just need to be more proud of that. Because I remember growing up, I would always be told to speak properly whenever I was speaking Trinidadian English, right? And why? It's because my elders wanted me to speak more like the Europeans so that I could, you know, navigate spaces and all of that better. But I don't think we should be conforming to their standards in order to develop ourselves. You know what I mean? I can't remember the third point.
I was gonna, so it's perfect. I wanted to ask you with this this accessibility that language offers, and you're saying, because it's a true statement, but it has to be more to that statement of us being able to hold on to the languages that were developed throughout these times of oppression. Yes. What is it that we need to do to make sure that those languages are maintained? And how does that lend to this journey inside of us receiving reparations? And Mariana, I'd like you to piggyback on that as well.
Okay, so off the top of my head, I think we need to encourage people to speak the languages, because as it is now, we discourage them, you know what I mean? And I understand the importance of, what do you call it, context, you know, for the whole reason, again, going back to being able to navigate certain spaces and all of that. But at the same time, these are languages that were developed through resilience and are symbols of resilience and creativity and all of the things that make us who we are and should be preserved to remind us, you know, that this is what we're made of.
Mariana?
Okay, so I'd like to add to it that I agree with Nicholas with the needs that we have to create safe spaces so we can expand our knowledges, including through languages too, learning international languages at this time, like Harmony knows. And I also, when Jamie was talking, I remember that professor of theater here in Brazil called Leda Maria Martins. She talks about some methods that we in our diaspora have developed, and not only recreating Portuguese words, but also having a method in the way that we talk about. So mostly of the African populations that came here to Brazil, they had a very large knowledge about orality. So they could mobilize different systems of knowledge. And to this time, orality for us is very important, but it's not something closed in our voice through the sound, but also it creates a system, a method that we express ourselves through writing in other forms of expression. So I think it says a lot about the, I don't know if evolution of the language that we deal within our diaspora, but I think that it's something that we have very, very close to us, and that we need to treat it respectfully, but also not being closed in only in the spaces that coloniality gave us. You know, having this chance here, for example, for us to connect, to exchange thoughts, it's very important, so we can help each other through this road of liberation. That's what I think.
I agree with you. I also feel that there is something inside of us being able to understand each other, and the oppressor or oppressive forces not being able to understand us, and how rich that is. And that's what I meant earlier about difference. Yeah, speaking several languages and even having something that unifies us in some way, whether it be part of a body language system that we use, is enough to start. Yeah, I think that what happens inside of our spaces is this push down of our languages that were developed, like patois, and it's not something that's public. Is it possible, Nicholas and Harmony, or any one of you, that there needs to be some sort of mandate for this being taught in schools? And the thing that I'm really trying to get out of you is, how does this help with reparations? How does that help to repair us externally and internally from the things that we've experienced? Does it?
I think because, okay, I was speaking to one of my friends that live in Denmark a few days ago, and he was saying that he wants me to teach him Trinidadian English, and the thought never occurred to me before that, you know, this language could be taught. You know, I thought it was just, I don't know, I don't know what I thought, but I think that could be a good initiative. And the way that I see, you know, us preserving these languages influencing reparations is because these are the languages that we speak from childhood. You know, we grew up speaking these languages, and yet they are scorned, I want to say, and it really affects our self-image, you know what I mean? There's a psychological theory called looking glass self theory, which talks about how we come to see ourselves as other people see us. And so if, you know, the way that I naturally speak is always frowned upon, I would come to see myself as, you know, something that should be frowned upon in some way or another, you know. So yeah, I think it is important to reparations.
I'm a child, I'm an immigrant child. We moved to the States when I was about 9 years old, and I was teased in school. And because I was teased in school, I went home and asked my mother, you know, is something wrong with the way that we speak? And she's like, no, what's wrong? So I was like, no, the kids in school are making fun of me. And I said, I'm gonna have to change it, but not because I don't want to speak like a Trinidadian anymore, but because I want to be understood. The violence of comprehension, right? So my wanting to be understood created this assimilation of my tongue. And now coming back home, there's this now hybrid. So my essence of how I spoke as a child is almost gone to a certain degree. But when I find myself in certain circles, it comes back naturally. Yeah? And you're laughing, Sule, but that's what it is. It's built inside in a certain way. So my reparations, my internal reparations of retrieving my language and my speech is in that. And I see it translate inside of my writing and the way that I think. So it's very connected, as Nicholas said, to us getting reparations. So we got 3 so far. The technology of community, the technology of the imaginary, and the technology of language. Talk to me about a technology that you feel like you can develop, not the ones that you're already a part of or inside of. Talk to me about a technology that is absolutely new and refreshing, and that maybe we've never heard of or thought about it as a technology or something we could use to get to our reparations. Sule's unmuted, so I'll go on Sule.
All right. Okay, so a technology that that I'm a part of was something that I wish to create. I always tell persons there's always a need for a safe space where you can learn all of these things. Because like you, Jamie, I have an experience as a child because my name is very special. So when I go into school, when I started school, there was like Sule, kind of Chinese, African kind of, I mean, I was made fun of, but it made me stronger as a character because it's a unique name. It's genuinely a unique name. But I digress. I think the philosophy of Black for Black by Black. So going back to the system mentality, I say, create the space, created by Black, run by Black, and governed by Black. This to say, you are accepted as who you are. And I think Edward Glissant spoke about opacity. So when we're speaking about the opacity, you have to be able to accept a person as they are and as they come. So, and then you can then build on that knowledge that they already have. So I think the best applicable thing is for us to create spaces or create avenues where persons can go to freely express themselves. If they want to learn a martial art like capoeira, which is an African martial art which came from slavery. If they want to learn a different language, an African language, Swahili or any of these languages, that space must be created. If you want to learn things such as proposal writings and these types of aspects, there should be a space where you can come and persons can pass that knowledge on to you.
So what I'm doing is a little bit of trickery, right? As a Trinidadian, but sometimes we do that, but it's not trickery in a bad way. Yeah, it's very Nancy strategic quality. And I'm asking you, I don't want to know what we as a people can do. I want to know what Sule. So if you're telling me this, because if you're telling me this, then in a couple of weeks, I want to see the plan to have this space. You got it already. It's there already, Sule. It's there.
I do. I actually have something I'm planning to roll out very soon, but I don't really want to discuss it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Invention.
It's in its preliminary phases. I'm doing the research and I'm getting there.
Beautiful. So I'm glad that you're thinking on that. So yeah, I want to know about because your youth is informed by, again, the thought of the elders, right, and what was put inside the space for you. But you also came here with certain things, right? You came here with certain things to help. There's not an accident that you all are part of this conversation. Yeah, I believe that there's a reason why the four of you are here, and I don't know that it's important for us to find an answer today. I think it's important for us to ask more questions of ourselves, yeah, so that we can get and unravel some of the things that might be underneath as individuals. And I think that'll help us to bring out some more technologies that we may not be aware of. So I completely respect that, Sule, and you should protect your intellectual property. But I can't wait to hear about it and see it.
You will, you will.
All right, wonderful. Mariana.
So, okay, I think that I'm able to help in creating methods in the Brazilian public policies when we need to deal with diversity, because colonization has divided us, and through gender, through race, and many of the others intellectuals have really put effort through the public policies in my country, in recognizing the demographic aspects of race, gender, and other categories too. But there is one thing that is still trapped into the colonial way of thinking, and we need right now to develop another way to approach for our needs, whether it be to internet governance or any other discussion about our society. So I think that for me, through my experience, I have connected, have the chance to learn about intersectionality, which I think is very important, so we can understand how oppression works. But I do think that we need to create, to reinforce the systems that we already have to recognize humanity, going further of those colonial ways of categorizing people. So I think that I hope that I can help in this field. And I would also like to answer a question that Anderson put in the chat about Portuguese, which is a concept framed by Lélia Gonzalez. I don't know if you have heard about her, but she was a historian as well as a councilwoman here in Brazil in the 80s, and she created this concept to talk about like Black Portuguese, but not something Portuguese, but not something that would be only restricted to Black people. But when she looks to the colonial aspects of raising a white child, for example, she would say that the Black women would give the chance for those child to learn some African ways of talking, and this shaped the whole way that we speak Portuguese. So I think that it's what she thinks about Portuguese is something that can really, for example, support me in the way that I think about public policies in recognizing humanity, because, for example, she also framed another concept to talk about our region. It's the concept of América Latina, or American Latin, Latin America, being a strategy to recognize the indigenous as well as African contributions to our region, because Latin America is still very connected with the ways of the colonizers that have shaped our region. So I know that I went too far, but that's
no, you absolutely didn't go too far. You're totally in line and aligned with what we're speaking about. I just wrote it inside of the chat. Portuguese versus Portuguese. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that for me is going back to what we were saying before about what our ancestors did with developing all these different types of language, yeah, and how we've disguised and reshaped things. So absolutely, so now we have an example of it. We probably have several examples, but in this conversation we have that example to go back to. Harmony.
Hi, yes. I wanted to answer the question about like my own system that I kind of want to create. I would say before I moved to the US, like before I moved to New York, like that was like 2010, I had never honestly had never seen color. And many people might be like, how is that possible? I really didn't. I would always meet people. I had many friends, but I didn't ever know. I had never called myself Black or specifically Haitian or American. I was just me. I was just Harmony. That's just me. And anything I did was my own self. For me, I like the friends that I've come in contact, I've made now recently, and just like being in college and even from middle school and high school, I've had to teach them a lot in like how to express their freedom. And when I say freedom, I mean like fully understanding that you're not in a box. Like when you're outside, you're with yourself or you're with other people, you don't have to do what someone tells you. And you don't have to walk where you think the world wants you to walk. You're allowed to go wherever you want. And I want to create a system where I want to be able to teach people, like I want to be able to teach people this freedom that you have. You are yourself. You are your own world. And when you walk out into the world, it's not just you're not walking for them. You're walking for yourself. You're you. You're not Black. You're not a girl or boy. You're not a student. You're just whoever you want to be and whoever you are. So I wish I could teach people the true definition of being yourself. Forget the title.
I love that, and I want you to make sure that you read the right to opacity, because it's that. Yeah, it's that exact thing, the right to simply exist as you. Yeah, that's the opacity. So great. I'm looking forward to that system because I'm all about that system. We keep talking about going into, and it's important to do, learning how oppression works, but we also need to recall how liberation works and come out of this idea that we don't have it. Yeah, which is going to be harder for you to express something if you feel like you don't have it, right? So I'm with you, Harmony, absolutely. One more question, and then I want us to do a little something that I didn't tell you we were going to do, to kind of bring all these technologies together and to also see if we can get to a space, something to kind of give the audience members and us something to think about and relish inside of an evidence, if you will, of our reparations that already exist and the ones that we know that we still have arrears to get, whether it be monetary arrears or in other ways. So last question is, I want to know from you all, what can the elders in this space do in order to help you to better inherit your legacies and to better continue to, because I personally, I don't want to 20 years from now be 60, 61. I don't want 20 years from now that we're still having a conversation about fighting for reparations. Yeah, I want us to have the internal ones, I want us to have the external ones. So I want to know what it is that we can do as elders in the space to help you to continue on that path and also come to some resolution. Nicholas. You like that, right, Nicholas? Because I find it was quiet over there. I said, nah.
Just trying to put my thoughts together, but I think more than anything else, they just need to leave us alone. Because I think a lot of our elders, I say a lot of, but you know, I don't know. In my experience, right, a lot of the interactions I've had with...
Nicholas, I'm interrupting because I want you to be transparent and I want you to be truthful. Nobody can do nothing to you on this. Nobody because we have to, if we don't get to a point where we're not speaking honestly as intergenerational Black human beings, and I don't want to just use the word Black because that's not who we are.
Yeah.
So as diaspora people, yeah, if we don't get to that space where I can tell you, listen, you're doing this and it's absolute nonsense, and I need you to know, and here's what I would like you to do, or let me sit down and come up with a plan. Yeah. So be transparent. Tell they're listening. They're gonna be able to go and pull this up later on YouTube. Tell them what you need and what we need to do. And I'm saying we because I'm a part of the elder crew now.
Yeah. Just piggybacking off of what you said though, in the first conversation, Mr. Earl Lovelace spoke about Black consciousness, about us being conditioned to perceive Black consciousness as, you know, something that we should be ashamed of. And I personally have perceived Black consciousness as something that I should be afraid of. And, you know, just now when you said, nobody can do me nothing, you know what I mean? I could just be myself and be transparent and say what it is I have to say. So yeah, I think a lot of our elders perpetuate colonial thoughts in our society. And a lot of the time, they are, you know, our oppressors as well, because okay, so for example, I remember having to choose at one point between my hair and my education. And the principal of that school was a Black man. So, you know, I don't think there's anything, because once a person is already indoctrinated and they already form their pattern of thought and their way of being, and, you know, with respect to our elders, that being colonial, I don't think there's much we can do to, you know, they need to want to help themselves and unlearn what it is they have learned. But you could lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink, right? So I think the best thing they could do is just leave us alone, let us do our thing, you know, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I'm, you know, in my life, I'm a firm believer in leaving me alone. However, I want you to be mindful that the elders have information that you would need, right, to continue on in your liberation. So this thing of, and I hear a lot of young people saying it, you know, just leave us alone. But I want to understand, how do we continue to have a bridge? How do we continue to connect? Yeah, if we just all just leave each other alone. Yeah, there is this thing that's happening now where it's the self-reparations, because there's damage that we've done to ourselves as a result. Yeah, there's the reparations that we have to each other because of how we treat each other, not just as Black people, Black person to Black person, but elder to young person. Yeah, and then there's this whole external reparations, which started the whole damn thing, right? There's two questions in the thing, and I want to piggyback on that. If you have a thought about what I just said, you can also answer that. Go ahead.
All right, so I was actually going to try and address the question, one of the questions in
Sule,
on the platform as well. But before that, Nicholas, I completely agree with you. Like, sometimes if you find that old persons are upset with you because you're not like them, which is strange because we're growing up in a completely different time, we're growing up in a completely different age. And I can understand that they have knowledge to pass on. But as my mom always used to tell me, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Exactly. So there's a way to do it. And you can't demand respect from me if you're not willing to give me that same respect. So I wouldn't say specifically leave us alone. I would say, and it's not in contradiction with you, Nicholas, I would say give us opportunities to speak. Because if you are the downward voice or the depressing voice that is speaking to us, if that is coming from our elders, what are we as youth supposed to do exactly? How exactly are we supposed to be more vocal if you are the person oppressing us? If you are focusing on our negatives more so than our positives? And I believe the question in the chat was,
you don't have to, don't go to the question in the chat yet, because I want, you know, because it's basically asking the same things. How the question exactly is, how can you be available to them knowing that we can't do it alone, which is what I'm saying to you about that bridge. And the fact that you do not know it all is about sharing and connection, right? And that unknowing, right, that we all have to do, the unlearning, also then requires room and space. It requires a certain amount of humility. because what I'm hearing from you all is that the elders are now the oppressors, which means the elders owe you reparations. Tell me if
I just want to add that
not in its entirety.
We're about to have an argument now. Like, okay, go.
No, yeah, I just wanted to add.
It's okay. You don't have to piggyback. Go backtrack on what you said, Nicholas.
No.
It's not about it not being okay.
Yeah, it's just that I in response to that question, I focused on those elders that have, tried to colonize me, I want to say, psychologically, because that has been my experience. I wasn't always exposed to Black consciousness and people that were Black conscious in my space. So, when you asked that question, my mind immediately went to those specific experiences. But there are elders that, right here at the Black Consciousness Festival that we could, learn from. And yeah, definitely.
Right. And here's the thing, again, that's why I didn't want you to I see you, Harmony, hold it, I'm coming to you. I don't want you to backpedal. Thank you for the clarification of what you said, but I also want you to be mindful there are elders and then there are olders. Yeah? There are people who have certain knowledge. The other technology that comes back to my mind now is the technology of rites of passage. If we don't have a system where there's a passing on, you all are in danger because you do not know what came before and you'll just be reinventing the wheel. So somebody says inside of the group about compassion. So the elders need to have more compassion for what it is that you need in the space. And you as young people have to have compassion because they're human. One of the things I used to say about my parents as they got older, my siblings would complain about certain things and I'm like, I hear you, and not that I didn't, right? But I'm like, I hear you. Daddy, mommy gets on my nerves sometimes too, but they were young people with dreams once. They had certain things that they didn't get to accomplish once. How do we create space for that as well? And I'm asking you because it does fall on your shoulders in a particular way. Someone in the group is saying, I agree with what they become, sometimes oppressors unknowingly, but that is because they have been conditioned in that way. Exactly. So how do we make space for the conditioning that we all are experiencing? Because then if you go, leave me alone, Nicholas, I'm not getting you. I like that you use that phrase, right? Because I feel that way often, with people in general. But if you go leave me alone, you're now closing the door, right? So there's not you, and you're also reconditioning yourself and pulling in that oppressive spirit. And you're going to then pass it on, possibly, to the next generation that's coming behind you. Yeah? So it's things to think about. I like that y'all got feisty. Harmony, go.
Thank you. No, I definitely agree with Nicholas about the leave me alone part. I've felt this way for so many years. It's like, just give me my space. But it is something that I have been battling for years too. It's like with my mom. My mom's a single parent and I'm her only child. And so we've had our differences. Also, my mom is listening on the panel. We've had our differences, and honestly, many times I've just wanted to scream to her and be like, leave me alone, let me make my mistakes. But there's one thing I've come to realize about elders and kids, because I'm definitely supporting the kid side of this, but if there's one thing I've learned is that elders, yes, you guys used to be young, you guys have your stories, have your lessons that are going to help us in our life, help us and kind of stop us from making the same mistakes that you guys made when you were younger. But at the same time, I've realized as a child, we have to make our own mistakes. But we do need you there. We don't want to push you completely away. We want your guidance when we want it. Not necessarily all the time. Like when we make a mistake and we come back to you crying and we're bruised up and we're like, oh, come on, I could use some advice right now. Yeah, we'll take it. And I've always wanted to take my mom's advice. I've always wanted to follow my mom's footsteps. She's an amazing dancer, poet, artist, all of that. And I've always wanted to follow her footsteps, and a personal trainer. And so many times I tried to follow, and then it's just like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to make my own path. It's like I'm gonna follow her. I want to take her advice. I really want to. Like every time she talks to me, it's like I want to take your advice so bad, but then I go out and I do my thing, and it just fades away. I forget about it. And it's just like I feel like elders are doing exactly what they need to do. They are helping us. They are supporting us. They're giving us the advice that we do need, but on this part, especially this generation, I feel like it's the kids that it's time for them to take responsibility and understand that the world is not completely what we think it is. It's not the way we see it as children. It's not all go fun and, you know, do whatever you want. There are rules, and we should take the time to listen to our elders. And even if we don't always take their advice, at least have it in the back of our mind so that when we're walking on our own path, it feels as though our ancestors and our elders are walking right there beside us. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, thank you for that, Harmony. And I'm triggering back to the point of we are not just our individual self. Yeah, we are thought, becoming thought, becoming tongue. So at some point, it has to go into that zone. Yeah, the compassion that you're speaking about is necessary for us to be able to get on. I don't think you should keep it in the back of your mind. Yeah, and that's just my opinion, Harmony. Yeah, I think it has to be in the forefront of your mind. And what the advice, the knowledge, the wisdom that elders give to you, and sometimes it's not verbal, right? Because we have these extra linguistic ways of dealing with each other, right? Sometimes it might just be showing you how to make some food, and you have no idea. My mother would clean religiously. And I would be looking around like, this lady is like never gonna stop cleaning. She moves everything around when she cleans, like this is crazy. And now I'm older and I clean the same way, but what I understood she was trying to teach me was not about a physical cleaning. It was about spiritual cleaning and about what happens to my mind and my body and my spirit when I clean anything, you know? And it's never something that she said to me. It's something I figured out when I got older. But I gave her all types of trouble to wash the dishes. I had all types of attitude, you know what I mean? So I want you to start, when you're getting information from the elders, because again, it starts to sound to me, and I'm being a little bit devil's advocate to pinch y'all a little, but it sounds oppressive, and it sounds like you're taking away the autonomy from the elders, the same autonomy that you want.
So, Jimmy, just
Go ahead.
So, what I think is best, because I think the analogy of clean, because my mom does the exact same thing. I tell her she has OCD, all of these things, but it's you teach on instruction, you don't teach on why. So if you tell me why, so for instance, clean your room, you create a space where it's clean, an environment where you can nurture yourself, where you can learn. You explain that to me. And once you've explained that to me, now I have a better understanding. You can't just be barking orders and these types of things and expect me to just take it. Like, you need to have the ability to explain it to me.
The technology of delivery. Every time you say something, I'm going to pull out another technology. So there's a technology of delivery that might need to change, right? Or evolve. Because I don't think that the technology of delivery has been necessarily bad. Some of that technology has saved our lives. You know, my mother did not deliver things in the most proper way. And as a result, I don't always deliver things in the most proper way. But I've seen it literally save people's lives. Yeah? So I definitely agree with you, Sule, but I also want you to think more about that technology of delivery is reciprocal.
Definitely.
Okay? And I'm saying that because I know I remember what it was like to be a young person, and I still have.
You're still a young person.
Thank you very much. And I have mentors that are older than me, so I very much still feel like a child in their presence. And although I know that I'm not a child, and I don't view you all as children, we are all children. All of us. We're somebody's child. Yeah? We're our ancestors' children. So this mentality of thinking that we're being diminished by our elders, by the way that they speak, we have to find, and the word keeps coming up, of compassion. How do we relay? How do we deliver? How do we use our technology of delivery? Because you all know certain things that we don't know, and vice versa. Yeah, so I want you all to think about that, and I think that'll be helping to share them with me so that I can grow as well. Mariana
I want to
and
touch on
Nicholas,
it once.
hold on
Oh,
one
sorry.
second, Sule. Hold on, Sule, because they got their hands up.
Oh,
They're ready to
sorry.
talk
Yeah.
now. It's okay. Mariana, go ahead, honey.
Thank you. So I think that is very courageous of Nicholas when he says that, please leave us alone. And I think that we need to create a space for elders as well as kids to embrace conflicts, because it's something that right now in my generation we are dealing, and we are not being able to embrace our differences. And I think that when we have to deal with it in intergenerational space, it's even harder. And I think that the ways that colonization plays with all of us in those situations is when we take the category of age, for example, and do not address how our societies still uses to oppress us, because kids are seen as non-capable of thinking in their own way. And that's okay to disagree with our elders. That's okay to disagree among all of us. And that's something that I see right now that we really need to reinforce. Also think that it goes to the place of responsibility, because as we as young people learn how to deal with this world of right now, and we have the chance to have a talk with our family, with the elders, our mentors, they also learned. And that's the thing about compassion. But well, I think that we do need to recognize the responsibility that the elders have with our community. It's okay mentoring us, but they have their own issues on becoming good ancestors, and they need to do their work. And we have to as young people, to have the opportunity to fail, as Harmony, as everyone is saying here. So I think it's very mixed it up, because like some African systems in our diaspora has taught us about the value of, I don't know how to say this in English, but senioridade, senioridade, and the value of.
Write it in the chat, Mariana. Write it in the chat.
Okay. Senioridade. Like, I don't know.
In seniority.
Yes, probably. Like, because
I got you.
Yeah,
This is what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Yes, senioridade, and how we deal with hierarchies. Yes, that don't oppress us just by this division of age. It's kind of tricky.
It's tricky, but it's workable, and I agree with you. Thank you for saying the importance of the elders and the importance of roles. In the chat, I'm seeing that is part of the technology to introduce, helping older persons to see themselves as they move, work to be done at all levels. Yeah, so that's basically what I am trying to relay to you. Yeah, you have to have space to grow. You have to have space to do that. The danger in being left alone. It is like a baby. I was an independent child. So a baby that knows how to walk. Do you leave the baby alone? No. Yeah. Yes, you let the baby fall down. Yes, you let the baby do certain things, but there's certain things you have to put in place so the baby is safe, so the baby can get older, right? And grab onto the things that you have for them and carry on those legacies. So I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you in terms of what it is that you all, I can't disagree with it because of what you're needing, what you're saying. Yeah. And that autonomous space is needed. But there's also something you have to do in connecting with the elder, because it's something that's happened in our space. And I wonder how much of that has contributed to us feeling like we haven't gotten reparations. We spoke briefly the other day about this fight, so we're constantly fighting. So we're fighting for reparations, we're fighting for reparations outside of ourselves, we're trying to figure ourselves inside of ourselves, we're fighting with the intergenerational species, and here we are now, and we just stuck at the trauma, right? You took a deep breath, Mariana. Yeah, it becomes a lot, right? So we get stuck inside of what is what I need, this is what I need, and nobody's moving towards the other. Yeah, I do not believe that we should move towards our oppressors in a particular way, but strategy tells me that in order for me to exact my freedom, right, Harmony, to express my freedom fully, I gotta move towards them. But I'm not moving towards them to create a deal. I'm moving towards them to deconstruct and destroy systems that were there before, yeah, so that I can now create something new. So going to an elder's house and just saying, you need me to clean your kitchen today? And inside of that, you would be surprised how much you learn, not from going to get anything from them, just when you fail. Don't wait until you fail to get stuff from them, yeah? Go before that moment. Find out what they did, what they wanted to do when they were 16 years old, yeah? Some of their things need to be recovered. Some of their things need to be repaired in order for us to get to this thing of reparations that we are seeking. Yeah, I'm gonna let Nicholas go, and then I want to get to the exercise because now y'all ready to talk. Now we're ready to have a conversation. Go ahead, Nicholas.
I like how Mariana said that, you know, we need to open a space to deal with the conflict, the intergenerational conflicts, and I think that is what I did when I said to leave us alone. And in hearing everyone else's response to that question about the elders, you know, I'm coming to the realization that all they were trying to do in telling me, you know, to speak properly, to cut my hair, to, you know, do this and that, is to help me succeed, because that is what they had to do in a certain kind of world that they had to live through. And it just goes to show how the Black experience is dynamic, and we need to constantly be adapting to our conditions, because we can't do that now. If we do that now, we're going back, you know what I mean? If I cut my hair and choose to speak a certain way that is in line with European ideals, then we're slowing down the process. And I think,
away from liberation,
yeah, I think, you know, we just need to be mindful of that and bridge the gap and learn from each other, you know. So yeah, that's it.
I love what you just said, because that is a vehicle, right? So you saying that, right? I need to now see how you pass it on, not just to the other elders, but to your immediate community of young people. So I'm putting a charge on you, and then I want to get to this exercise. I think Sule wanted to add something else before we close off this question. 1 second, yeah. Sule. I want to put a charge to you all to find 3 elders in your community. And because you have Zoom now, there's lots of elders you can reach out to. And it could just be to hear about them. It could be because you're helping them clean something, wash some clothes, garden, read a book to them. You want to share something that you have that would probably inspire them and probably maybe jog even something in their memories that would give you something to add to what you have. So that's my charge to you. Sule, we're going to take this last thing from you, and then I want to do the thing that I have a surprise for you.
Okay, I can't wait to see what the surprise is. I actually was Nicholas kind of covered most of it, but I think the purpose of our elders or our ancestors is to pass down knowledge, is to guide us on the right path. And a lot of our elders have been doing it. But I think what we kind of do is end up overprotecting. I don't want to beat a dead horse. So you want to be a problem solver. You want to teach the juniors to be problem solvers. You don't solve the problem for them. There's a problem, you teach them how to solve problems so they can address the problems as they come along. And that's all I actually wanted to say on the point.
That's a great point, because we also have technologies of problem solving. Did you know that, Sule? Good. So fantastic. You have some homework to do. Yeah, we have technologies of problem solving in the system of Kalinda. Kalinda is a ritualized warfare. Yeah, it's also a multi-dimensional performance complex that includes dance, drumming, the chanting of lavways, rituals, and stick fighting. Inside of that, I don't have time to just be like, okay, so I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. It is shifting constantly, yeah? Whether it be inside of the lavway where you ex-tempo, so it can change, right? It can disguise itself. So you're always making yourself more competent, yeah? So this becomes a thing of competency at some level. So we have those. We have technologies of competencies. We have technologies of problem solving. So I want you to look into that, Sule, with this new project that you have coming up. Yeah, and this is what we're doing right now. We're using a technology of problem solving in this moment. I'm not telling you all what to do. You're not telling me what to do. We're having a conversation and coming up with all of these different ideas of what we have available to us. There's a question from the group, and then I'm gonna get to the surprise. In addition to visual art and learning more languages spoken common around the diaspora, what are some concrete ways to lure your age mates to reparations dialogue? I want to say, can I just say before you answer the question, I feel so weird continuously saying young people, because to me, you are my equals, yeah? You're human, right? And there's this thing of Black humanity as outside of regular humanity. So we are talking about folks in your age range, yes? Because I feel like sometimes saying young people diminishes what you actually are and who you actually are. And I remember feeling that way when I was younger. So again, with the question, just so you get it again, in addition to visual art and learning more languages spoke in common and around the diaspora, what are some concrete ways to lure your age mates to the reparations dialogue? Give me one quick sentence, and then we're gonna go, because we are talking, which is great. I'm glad that we're talking. Sule, you want to go first?
Sure. My answer to that would be meet them where they are, because there's a lot of youth out there that have ideas. And like I said, the purpose of elders is to guide us. There are a lot of young people out there, they want to draw, they want to do something, they want to play games for a living, and which it is possible for them to do, and they can make money off of these games. Meet them where they are so you can have that conversation. You can meet them on social media, they're especially on TikTok. Facebook, Instagram, meet them where they are so that you can learn what they're doing, so you can guide them in whatever steps.
So you're saying to meet them where they are, and I want to piggyback the thing you said about games. Their African diaspora people have a technology of games. I'm telling you. I'm saying this to you because I don't want you all to feel like the things that exist now inside of computer technologies, it came from original data of us. The computer didn't think of that itself. We are the original data of that. Yeah? So going back I'm countering everything that you say. I'm gonna counter it. So I agree with you, but now I want you to figure out what were some of the games that they played. So that, because if you don't understand the games that they played, how are you gonna explain this new game to them? Right? That's what our mind does, right? We're looking for some sort of relationality, something to grasp onto to understand it better. So great. I love that answer. Mariana. Same question.
So I think that it could be capoeira. It was in my experience, because I would have the chance to decolonize my body, as well as I would learn about my history through the music. And in general, I think really in creating spaces that we can express ourselves, as Mariana, Harmony, Nicholas, like this opportunity at this festival. That's for me is that.
Beautiful. So far we have games, we have capoeira as another way to bring your age group into this reparations dialogue. Nicholas.
I think, what comes to mind for me is just education, and not education that you would receive in school or anything like that, but workshops, events like this that we're putting on here with the Black Consciousness Festival, just to educate people about reparations and the importance for reparations, because I personally learned about reparations through a workshop that was held, in UWI. And yeah, I think that serves as an example,
I want you to, you don't have to answer it now, but I want you to think deeper on that because we touched on education and what that means in a various amount of ways. So I want you to think some more on that. Yeah? I am looking for you all to develop more technology. There's been the whole conversation. Yeah? And I want you all to start to think about that because you're telling me you want to be left alone. So if you want to be left alone, cool. I'm good with that. Right? But while you're being left alone, I need to know that you all are building something for the futures because you are able to sit here because of what someone else did. Yeah? You're able to have the voice to say, don't tell me to cut my hair for this job. I don't need to do that now. But you don't need to do that now because of what somebody else did. Yeah? Harmony.
For me, I'd say we could bring people in our age group together through fun, through dance, drumming, storytelling. People love stories. Everybody loves stories. Everybody loves a good story that they can relate to, or even if they can't relate to, something that they can laugh at or that they can feel a connection to. I personally don't I don't really like the idea of like meeting kids where they are and then trying to like, you know, tell them turn into a business. Because like I know me and I don't want to speak for all kids, but I would say me and some of my friends, it's like we're just trying to relax, have a little fun. We're not trying to have a whole business. We're just trying to do like our hobbies, that's our place where we can feel free and actually express ourselves without being told what to do or without trying to get to some higher point. So for me, I would say bring kids together through having fun, and through that we can unify this language together. Yeah.
Great. So what I heard, and you tell me if I misheard, what I heard is the technology of games, the technology of martial traditions like capoeira, or specifically capoeira, the technology of uneducation through unlearning, yes, and the technology of recreation as opposed to recreation. Yeah. So
Yes.
yes, Sule, you like that, right, Sule? You could take that. You could run with that. Yeah. So that's what I want us to walk away from, all of us in this conversation, is thinking about how our fight for reparation has brought us to a point where there's a certain amount of exhaustion because it's so multi-layered, and how we can be more autonomous and more helpful to whatever fight that we choose or whatever journey we're choosing, is to start from this internal space of creating and recreating. And the only way that we can do that is if we are connecting and reconnecting. Yeah? So, surprise. Unless somebody wants to say something, because I just said that last thing and you feel like you want to, no, you're good? All right, nice. So I would like to share something with you that is a part of a technique called the Philbert technique for dance and performance, which I founded and co-created with Rondell Benjamin and the transition King David Matthew Brown, who are amazing warrior Bois men or stick fighters, and it's more than stick fighters, so I didn't use the word stick fighters in this paper. Kalinda practitioners. I am also a Kalinda practitioner. And it's a writing method pulled from Kalinda's system, and as a system of X-tempo and using our language and using recreation and games and education and unlearning and all those things that you all discussed. So you're going to take 1 minute. I'm going to give you 3 prompts. So 1 minute for each prompt. After the prompt is done, I will stop you, and you will look up to the screen so I know that you're not cheating during our game. Yes? And you will only write 4 minutes. I'll give you a word. You'll write 1 minute on that word, and then I'll give you 2 more words, and then we'll end it, and then we'll share our writing. Sound good? Harmony's not. What you say? Harmony? What? I've used muted. What you say? What? What you say?
Oh no, I was like sure. I was just thinking I need to find something to write with.
Take a second to do that. Get something to write with if you don't already have something. And I will also do the prompt with you in the spirit of us connecting and building bridges and making sure that we are not I'm telling you to do something, but I'm not willing to do it. Because for me, that's a part of not just this intergenerational fight that's going on, but just in general, you know? I have to be able, if I tell you to scrub the floor, then I need to be able to scrub the floors too. I need to be right next to you doing it. Yeah, because it might be something that you might scrub it a little bit different than me. I might learn something from that, yeah? The soap you might use might be different, and we have to celebrate those differences. Back to opacity again. Opacity is that celebration of our differences and our ability to exist freely. And all, for me, part of, yes, we have all these external systems that have tried to stop us from doing that, but we are evidence in this conversation right now that it didn't completely work. Yeah, our minds are still working, our imaginary is still going. Yeah, we are building community right inside of the space. So all the technologies that we talked about throughout the conversation are actually existing right here. How is that possible in an hour and a half? So if we, you understand what I'm saying? If we have that, I'm gonna pause a reason. If we have that in an hour and a half in this conversation, I know that it is possible for a real change to happen. But it takes us being open and compassionate. I said it the other day that we have to start to leave a crack in the door for each other. Yeah, so don't shut the elders all the way out. Yeah, you need them, they need you, right? And any elder that tells you anything different is lying. The elders need you. Okay, so first word prompt. Get your pens ready. You got 1 minute. Hold on, get my timer. Go in. So it doesn't matter what you write, how you write. This is a moment of you destroying colonization. Yes, you use whatever language you want, use whatever sounds you want. Yeah, movement is sound, sound is movement. Remember that as you write. Ready? First word is reparations. Go. And stop. Wherever you are, stop. Beautiful. Second one, whatever you have there, I also want you, and I'll talk about this afterwards, but I want you to know that whatever you write is right. Second prompt word. My pen just went out. Can I be excused from the next two prompts? I don't have another pen. I'll figure it out. Second prompt word, liberation. Stop. What are these faces I'm seeing?
Enough time.
1 minute. 1 minute. If we are in a situation of problem solving, Mr. Sule, right? You're good. So it's always enough time. It's just the time that we need. Yeah. Last one. My pen is really going out, but I am being obedient and continuing in the game. Last one. Actualization. And stop. Everybody take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. One more. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Now this one you're gonna breathe in through your nose with your mouth closed and just breathe out through your nose. In through your nose. You needed those, right? I needed that. So I felt that you all needed it. Let's go ahead and share what we wrote. Reparations, liberation, actualization. You can just read all three prompts back to back. And then you'll tell me how you felt about this exercise, this game, this problem solving, community. We're going back to calling names. We were doing so well.
I'll go. Okay. So for operations, I said repairing what is already there to bring a new system that can change or bring about a new world. Liberation, freeing yourself from your own imprisonment so that you can go and help others free themselves as well. Actualization, the becoming of a reality that was once only thought of. For the exercise, I felt like it was fast. That was my first thought. It was fast. It was nice though, because like I always love challenging my mind to write fast and think about stuff. It definitely made me want to like go deeper and write more about it and want to actually figure out what I really think the word means and go further to even forget about the word itself and just how can I use that feeling in my own life and just actually go through with what I said, like actually help free others while I'm still trying to figure out how to free myself.
So I'm gonna try right now. So I wrote it in Portuguese. I'm gonna translate as I read. So for reparation, I wrote dreams. Do not answer to labels.
Mariana, I'm sorry. Read it in Portuguese.
Okay.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. I want you all. If you walk away with nothing else from this conversation, I know that, when we usually hear the word reparations, we're always thinking about the money, right? Or not you per se, but that's where the conversation stems from a lot of times, and what we need to get back from somebody else. And what I want us to understand, and I think it's been brought up several times in the conversation, is everything begins with us. Even when someone has done something else to us, it begins with us, what we're going to do next. Yeah, so we had all this talk about the technology of language and all of that. So even the cadence and the sound of your voice speaking in Portuguese, even if we don't understand what you are saying, because Sule will know what you're saying, right? So, and Anderson is on here. Yeah, and we'll be able to catch. And if you want to go back and translate for us afterwards, school, but you get to live in that autonomy.
Okay, thank you. So, no reparation, I wrote sonhos, não responder a rótulos, acessar a ancestralidade, reconhecer a espiritualidade, rir, destruir sistemas de opressão. On liberation, I wrote viver mais do que sobreviver, abraçar nossa comunidade, ir e vir, encontrar estratégias para agir mesmo com medo. And on actualization, I wrote reconhecer a humanidade em meio à atualização das opressões. Isso funciona para todo mundo. And that's it.
Do you want to share the translation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You get to do all of that. Yeah.
Okay. On reparation, I wrote dreams do not answer to labels, access our ancestrality, recognize our spirituality, and have fun, destroy systems of oppression. On liberation, I wrote live more than survive, embrace our community, come and go, as well as find strategies to act even with fear. And on actualization, I wrote recognize humanity among the actualization of oppressions because it works for everyone. That's it.
Beautiful. And I felt it in both languages, just FYI. The power of your voice beyond the language that comes out. There is a timbre that resides in the voices of people of the African diaspora that is undeniable. When we speak, when we sing, when we move, I want you to trust your voice and the speech that you choose to use. Do not stifle your speech. Your ancestors did that for you already. Yeah?
Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you, Mariana. Nicholas.
Okay, so for reparations, I wrote, run me my money, run me my healthcare, run me my psychological rehabilitation, run me my reparation. For liberation, I wrote, you say I'm free, but I walk with shackles on my feet. And for actualization, which I perceived in a more psychological way with respect to self-actualization, I wrote, more than just a statistic, more than just a record, more than just a color, more than just. Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful, Nicholas. Run me that. Me like that. So with the new, because it's also about recreating the language, right? So maybe at some point, if we still are in this journey of reparations, then the reparations word will change to run me that. And you all have to think about that, right? I'm serious. Because maybe that brings your generation into the conversation differently. Yeah, maybe they don't understand what reparations is until you say it like that. Because I understood it perfectly fine. Sule.
Nicholas, you make me don't want to read mine anymore, but I will. I wish I wrote. All right, for reparation, I wrote, it's the process of correcting a wrong. It's the provision of 1, acknowledging a wrong has been done. 2, apologizing for it. And 3, seeing how best you can fix the damage you have done. Or at best, not interfere with the healing process of those that have been affected. For liberation, I wrote, it speaks to freedom, but it's not exactly freedom. I believe I make a distinction between liberation and freedom. Liberation is given to you, freedom is you take it for yourself. And actualization, this is the implementation process, turning thought into reality, the transferring from the imaginary to the reality, making a better world through actualization.
Beautiful. So we all get to share, and it's fine to admire what Nicholas has written, but your voice is also important. I have to keep repeating that to all that I will. Yes? And we get to all lift each other up. Everyone's was amazing. I'm going to share mine because I think you're making me do it. Where is it, Mariana? Where is it? Oh, behind your muted mic?
Please.
It's not, listen, I am happy to share, but I feel like what you all have shared, I'm so grateful for it because I feel like it puts a punctuation mark on the conversation in a particular way for me. Yeah, and I'm happy not to share, but I will share because we are sharing this moment. Repair, respond. I don't like it so. I like it just so. It's a part of me repairing, reaping, reconfiguring my DNA. So it's done. That was reparations. Liberation, I kind of started to make a list. Light, living liberation, lost liberation, losing liberation, living in liberation. Actualization. Actually, I am good. I am bad. I am all. I am all, and all is in me. I get to decide what free is, actually. My act is in my being. My act is in my thinking, in my speaking. So that was mine. So thank you for letting me share. Thank you for sharing this moment. Unmute your mics. Everybody unmute. Thank you for being here and sharing your brilliance. Your brilliance. Just it. No young attached or no old attached. Just your brilliance in this moment. I want to offer you, and this is something that we all have to work on. I want to offer you a space of understanding what your language does when you speak, and how you can change the cadence of that language to do whatever you need it to do in any moment to be able to communicate. Yes? I want you to also think about, Harmony kept using the word kids, and you continue to use that word, but I want you to think about what that does when you are trying to fight for your reparations and being left alone. Yeah? How you refer to yourself, how you identify yourself to others in the space. And it's something I'm sharing it with you because it's something that I'm still constantly reshaping. How do you become more of yourself in your own eyes and in the eyes of others? And I think that's important inside of this journey of reparations that we seek as people of the African diaspora. Thank each and every one of you, Harmony Divine, Nicholas Ward, Mariana Gomes, and Sule Collymore, for joining me for this conversation. Thank you so much to the Black Consciousness Festival. We have been talking for almost 2 hours, and I feel very enriched and satisfied and honored to have been here and be a part of this. I think that our ancestors are happy. I hope that they are. Anderson, thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back on to you. You're muted. There you are.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much, y'all. Thank you, Jamie, for facilitating this conversation in the weekend of reflections on reparations with Mariana Gomes, Sule Collymore, Nicholas Ward, and Harmony Divine. Thank you to our viewing audience for joining the Black Consciousness Festival's weekend of reparations. Stay tuned to our exciting schedule and get more information on the beautiful people around the world that are collaborating to make this weekend happen. And register for upcoming conversations at our website, theblackconsciousnessfestival.com. Our conversations continue, and we have another conversation at 6 p.m. for the Atlantic time zone and at 7 p.m. for the Brazilian time. The conversation is The Path to Progress, Reconciliation and Closure. A conversation with Bruno Brito of Escolinha Maria Filipa in Bahia, Brazil, and Thais Sena of Ebony English and educator Maria Proudhome. Do join us. Thank you again, Jamie, Mariana, Sule, Nicholas, and Harmony. Thank you to the entire team that has pulled our mini festival together. Have a good evening and walk in pride, power, and practice.
Sure.
Many blessings to all of you. Thank you so much for your time. Please stay in contact with me. Don't leave me hanging as an elder who wants to learn. So please reach out to me. Yeah. And I think I have some things I can share with you as well too that might help on your journey, but I also need your help. So let's go ahead and start that journey towards healing so that we can get all the reparations that we're supposed to get.
And before everyone goes, I just want to say you can just follow Ikemba on Facebook. it's one youth reparations. You can just follow us on Facebook. We'll be fine.
Type it inside of the chat now, so
Sure.
we can grab it.
And I just wanted to say thank you for giving us a voice as youngsters. Thank you for allowing us to speak freely and talk with it out there.
Yeah, I would like to reiterate that as well. Thank you for, giving us a platform to share our ideas and thoughts around reparations. And thank you, Jamie, for facilitating us.
Thank you all for the
It was my
opportunity to meet you all.
Yeah, it was my pleasure to be here, and I know that I can't speak for the Black Consciousness Festival, but I know that from the facilitators of the festival, they I believe that this is one of their goals, to offer these kinds of platforms, to all generations and to all ideas and thoughts around Blackness and what that means. So I hope to see that you all also begin to create your own platforms and invite us to those spaces as well, right? Because we want to know what that looks like and feels like. So I'm very, very grateful. You have my number, you have my email address, Doli Mahanya. Yeah? Thank you for your time, your energy. And again, thank you.